can we just take a moment to pause and think about those poor Newcastle fans? Never mind. United are on the verge of agreeing a deal to sign Sesko, and after the signings of Cunha and Mbeumo, it's fair to say this summer isn't going how we all thought it would. Not as far as signings go, anyway. Let's not talk about it. I want to talk about it, what we've got left to do, and just overall have a chat about it because, can't lie, it's pretty exciting. Oh, and subscribe if you want to watch daily United videos like this. Come on. I think it's fair to say this is going very differently to how we thought it would this summer. Thing is, it's not finished after Sesko, nor should it be, but I want to have a quick conversation about the clear strategy that's happened, the ambition that the club has got, and actually the ability to pull it off, which I think has probably been the thing that surprised us the most. And I mean that in a positive way. Even if the sales have been awful, which they have been, then that's particularly down to Ineos. It's just down to a problem that we've had at this football club for goddamn years. All right? But let's talk about it. All right? Let's talk about Sesko. I can't bother to speak about Newcastle anymore. The absolutely irrelevant club that they are. But Sesko, we've seen what's happened, right? David Ornstein's confirmed that Manchester United are now closing in on a bid. The first bid went in, and it was worth 85 million. Now, something to really recognise and notice is that Leipzig actually accepted a bid of 85 million for Sesko. So it means that United have basically got to pay a little bit more in terms of the guaranteed and a little bit less in terms of the add-ons. And we'll get the deal done probably for 85 million. Now, it's something that I said in my video yesterday that got proven to be correct because it was obvious that that was the strategy. United were never going to pull the trigger with the bid for Sesko until he made it clear that he wanted to join the club. So the fact that this got released this morning from Fabrizio Romano, that total agreement's already in place, the personal terms are already done, contract until 2030, before the bid's even been actually accepted, that's a real indicator that this man wants to join Manchester United, and that is definitely a pattern and part of the strategy that we're seeing this summer. If Mbeumo and Cunha were the Premier League proven players, then Sesko is the risk. I wouldn't say it's a punt. A punt would be an unfair way to describe it. But out of the three, it's certainly the riskiest of the signings. But these two and Ineos and just in general Manchester United's football structure received a hell of a lot of criticism. Fair criticism, by the way, during the season. The redundancies, part of those cuts were definitely needed, but it was more brutal than I thought we all hoped it would be. But what we're seeing this summer is a connected, well thought out strategy. Now, you might actually disagree with parts of this strategy, but what's clear to me is that United are going into this summer going, what's been our problem for the last few years? Scoring goals. All right, well, we'll sort that first, and then after, we'll sort the midfield. Although, to be honest, I actually think we're going to sign a midfielder as well. I don't know the level of what we're going to be signing. But the key connector between these three was desire to play for Manchester United, and that being a prerequisite before the bids went in. With Cunha, we went in really early. It was a release clause, so it wasn't really anything to do with negotiations. The only negotiation we had with Wolves was, can we pay it over 5 years instead of 3? They said no. We said fine. We paid it. Done. And it actually went on last year's accounts, and I'll speak about that later in terms of how much money we got left. With Mbeumo, we know exactly what happened. Before a bid went in, it came out that he wanted to join United. And by the way, everybody was linked with him at that time. Arsenal, Newcastle, Spurs. He could have played in the Champions League at multiple different clubs. But he chose United. That gave us leverage in the negotiations, and it may well have taken a long time, but not at any point did United feel that there was a bidding war happening because he chose United. And then you see what's going on with Sesko, and it's the exact same thing. United have managed to avoid a bidding war over three big signings that we made this summer. And that's probably been a key objective behind the scenes, internally anyway. Champions League football was there. Probably higher wages, higher upfront fee. I imagine they probably would have offered him higher wages as well. But no, I want to play for Manchester United. Now, this is definitely something that I can credit Barada, probably Jason Wilcox, Matt Hargreaves, and I don't know considering he's ahead of negotiations, I imagine he's heavily involved. But the way that we've gone about it with these three, you can argue till the cats come home about whether we've overpaid or not. No, I don't actually think we overpaid for Mbeumo. I think we all know that was fair market value in the grand scheme of things. Sesko, I think, is on the more expensive side of things. But it won't be if it works out. Of course, that's the proof in the pudding. But even in my most optimistic, this was a video I did at the start of summer about what would be my dream summer. I said signing Cunha, tick. Signing Mbeumo, tick. Signing Gyökeres. Well, you can replace him with Sesko, and that's equally a tick. Now, I actually have Wharton down as my ideal signing. Probably because I saw him more as a Carrick type replacement. Not replacement, but a Carrick style player. Carlos Baleba, I think you could put up there and really have an argument about the physical aspect of him. And Ijon Garcia down as a goalkeeper. So that's 3 out of 5 done. With the, in my opinion, in terms of a dream window, the desire to sign a midfielder and a goalkeeper. Interestingly, look at the prices. I had a Mbeumo down as 50. That didn't quite work out. And let's not talk about the sales, because all of them, of course, it's not worked out. It's really annoying when you end up doing this. Every summer you go, well, look, if United spend 286 and they make 215 in sales, and we only actually spend 71 mil, it always makes sense on paper, and it rarely works out like that. But in Sesko, United have managed to get him to turn his back on Champions League football and probably more money to join Manchester United. They've sold the project. But on top of that, how can they actually afford to do this? And this is the question that lots of you are asking. And that's what I mean about the surprise that we've all got United fans, because we all had an expectation of what we could spend this summer and what United's ability was. It's getting blown out of the water, right? We found out that Cunha actually got added. We signed him so early that the 20 million, which was paid to him, we're paying for him in 3 installments, around about 20 million each, actually went on last year's accounts, which gives us 20 million more in terms of headroom. Doesn't help us in the cash flow, but it helps us with the headroom on PSR. Now, on top of that, and I've already covered this in another video. This is just reiterated by The Athletic this morning, another fantastic article. I think it was Chris Witherspoon, talking about how United's PSR were actually under less pressure than we thought, because Manchester United's PLC, the main account, isn't actually what's used for PSR. It's Red Football Limited. And actually, there's been a lot less losses there because there's stuff added to the top level accounts that isn't added into Red Football Holdings. So actually, United have more PSR room in that sense. You know what it feels like? It really, to me, and I can't prove this is the strategy or not, but in terms of United being able to spend, I know that we had £72 million in cash, and I know that we've only made 20 million in sell-on clauses and 0 from sales. So the money's coming from somewhere. It has to be coming from the credit facility. It feels like United are taking and this is a compromise, and it's not one that I'm 100% on board with, but it's a compromise. And if it works in the long term, then it will be down as a success. It feels like United are spending on the credit card again and probably increasing the debt that's overall the club is held to, and paying interest on top of that, with the intention of those signings, therefore, giving United a better season, making more money across the course of the season that will then offset the extra interest that you paid anyway. So it's actually accumulating debt for the benefit of football ambition, rather than gaining debt because the Glazers are arseholes and they won't fund anything themselves. So that's what it feels like United are doing. And I still genuinely believe we're going to get a midfielder. I think we're going to get a goalkeeper as well. I don't know the level of both of those, and I think it will kind of depend on buying or leaving. But if you told any United fan this at the start of the summer, they would have laughed in your face and went and cried in the corner about the players that we're going to sign on loan because we can't afford anybody. It feels like Ineos have kind of played the game. You know, all the stuff from Ratcliffe about United being broke, about, this is our budget, stuff like that. It feels like we've been pretty smart so far this window. And I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm not sure if you are, but I think you are. You can let me know what you think in the comments below, but I don't think we're done. Not by a long shot.